I have planned this the narrative because I know this the workshop basically it's on human rights reporting and development journalism, and then my objective is to give an idea about the region called Northeast, so that it also helps understand like what is the development status of the region, and when we are calling it it's less developed or underdeveloped, the landlocked, why the situation has arrived, and also understanding some of the fault lines. So these fault lines, understanding the fault line is important. Then we also can understand the conflicts related to different issues and the ideas within the region on concepts like identity assertion movement and all. And when conflict occurs, there always comes to like human rights violation. Both sides. Those affected by the conflict, their rights are violated. Even during the conflict resolution initiative, there are allegations of human rights violations. Even when you remain deprived from development, then also comes of the deprivation from the basic citizens' rights, human rights as a citizens. Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, which provides basic rights to live the citizens. So I am trying to share a context of the development status as well as the various the conflicts and front line in Northeast. So let us understand the region called Northeast. Yes, I call it Northeast is a bundle of paradox. See here the region here, it has 98% international borders. We have countries all along the Northeast border. And but as someone living in Northeast, now I want to travel to the destination in my next door neighbor. Could be just half an hour journey, could be just 2 hour journey, 1 hour journey. Much less than shorter than the journey I travel to my other parts in India, say Mumbai or Chennai or the southern tip or maybe Punjab. But I want to work travel next door. What I have to do, primarily I have to do travel out of the region first. No? Because we have an international airport too, even in Tripura has become international. But Dibrugarh has also started becoming international. Only 2 airlines but no Indian airline operates a direct flight connecting this region to the next region. So, in a way, we are in a geographic region with a 98% international border, but we are not connected directly to our neighboring countries. So, you all of us must travel a wrong route, first flying out, then going to the next. So, and secondly, because of the various policies of the government of India, like Act East policy, neighborhood first policy, the regional grouping like BBIN, Bharat, Bhutan, India, Nepal. So there is the India is trying to strengthen its bilateral and multilateral cooperation with the neighboring countries, and it has brought benefits to the relationship. It has strengthened the relationship with India and other neighboring countries, Southeast Asian countries like Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, then Malaysia, and Bangladesh, Bhutan, all these countries. So the relation has strengthened, and it has benefited the country for expanding the trade and the other people-to-people engagement on the borders. And it leads to the new border regime. Right? The countries have now started softening their borders. When you allow more trade to take place, when you allow more people to come across the border, international border, no? So this is one aspect of the Northeast region. So because of the relation in international policies, so the countries' international borders are now getting started to soften. No? But within the region again, because of the clamors of different people, like within the region, the interstate boundaries have hardened. We are putting more restriction on travel within the region. Let's say for it's already there. I mean, and they are insisting on more. We need to take inner line permit for traveling to 4 states: Manipur, Arunachal Pradesh, then Mizoram, no, and no, Nagaland. We have not started inner line permit yet. I have yeah, Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur. Manipur is here. Manipur recently after the Citizenship Amendment Act. So then the borders are getting hardened within the region. That again is another paradox. So when we are imagining probably as a Northeast as a composite region, within the region the demarcations are getting hardened. And I will come to the various fault lines. Now this region, when we call Northeast, see, Northeast is an artificial construct for the purpose of administrative convenience and for looking it as a from the prism of the security as a geostrategic zone, composite zone. No, that is connected with the other parts of the India through a second net corridor called of 26-kilometer line. So but otherwise this region has 400 different speakers of different 400 languages. Some of you call it maybe dialect, that's a different thing. But I because they speak a language, I call it a language. But only 3 languages, Assamese, Manipuri, and Bodo, are among the 22 scheduled languages of India. No, there are other scheduled language speakers also here, Hindi, Bangla. Here also their population is here, but otherwise from among the local indigenous population group, out of 400, only 3. And even in census operation, because the census operation includes only population of 10,000, they record the population of 10,000 to acknowledge even the other speakers like say Tiwa, Rava, Mising, Garo, and all, and the different various language speakers. So if you take the census linguistic table, go to the linguistic table, we get all the data about the various language speakers. But that table also excludes those who speak a different language, but whose population is less than 10,000. Yeah, I'm just trying to compare this Northeast region because we are trying to open up, and I have already explained that because of the policy, foreign policy, because of the policies like at peace, neighborhood first, and all India's foreign policy. So we are trying to open the Northeast region, unlock, because it's a landlocked region. So we are trying to soften our international border and have more connectivity and more engagement of the people-to-people engagement. And at the same time, you see, in the 1991, Northeast, this policy was taken. Northeast is the gateway to ASEAN, Southeast Asia. And China also took a look-east policy in 1991. They took the Yunnan region. They call it Yunnan is the gateway to Southeast Asia. No? And if we look at the population figure, this Yunnan has a population of 47 million, and within over an area 3,94,100 square kilometer. Northeast has a population of 45.28 million, area to 2,62,179 square kilometer. So this is, I mean, this comparison will get us an idea about the progress of the various policy to develop, unlock the Northeast region. Now, how some of the projects move in both the regions? When we are trying to open the region, Yunnan, that is also landlocked, and how they are trying to connect with them. So, Kunming Vientiane railway link, its length is 1,035 kilometers. No? And out of this, 432 kilometers in Laos, from the Yunnan border, it's beyond in the other country. Project started in December 2016. And project inaugurated in December 2021, 5 years. No? And Lao section includes 167 bridges covering 62 kilometers, 75 tunnels covering 198 kilometers. It speaks about the challenges of constructing this railway line. Now let us look at the Agartala Howrah link. This is also a cross-border project because we had the railway link earlier prior to partition, but this because of the partition and then creation of Bangladesh, that this connectivity got snapped, and then India, because of its developing and strengthening its relation with Bangladesh, trying to rebuild the connectivity. So this project was taken. Length is 15 kilometers. We just try to. I'm just trying to look at how fast the projects move. When it comes to China opening its Yunnan region, and when it comes to Northeast regioning, its own India opening its Northeast region. So it was initiated in 2010. Included a budget of 2012. Anticipated cost was 250 crore. MOU signed by India and Bangladesh in 2013. Three years later, India and Bangladesh. How the geopolitics also decides whether the policy in respect to Northeast, the pace of the projects initiated under the various multilateral bilateral project, how they move. The 10 crore was spent up to March 2014. From within over a period of 4 years, only 10 crore was spent on this project. No? Foundation stone was laid in July 2016, and project status now completed when, and trial run started in 2023. 7 years from the initiation but the project initiated, it took 13 years. But again, we have seen the changes because of the changes in Bangladesh political scenario. Now this project, although the trial run was completed, so the commercial run of this connectivity, that is yet to start, and we will have to watch out the situation in Bangladesh, how far this progresses. This is again another important project, Kaladan project. So for Kaladan project, basically it connects the Kolkata port to Sitwe port in Myanmar, and from Sitwe port we travel on land and then to our Mizoram border, and then the region gets connected. No, Kaladan project was initiated, and the government initiated this project, pushed this project when there was a situation like that there was not much progress in through transit through Bangladesh. So India wanted another route that connects the main part with a shorter route. Now, because of the partition, see earlier the distance between Agartala and Kolkata, it was a straight through Dhaka. It was very short, some 600 kilometers. No, and after this link was snapped, now the distance is more than 1600 kilometers. That explains the development cost, because when you have to travel, bring supplies through a long route, price goes up, and the commercial viability of the products is less. So investors are not keen, because when they produce and then to market, they will again have to travel a longer distance. But because of this, the Northeast is trying to unlock. Now the investors are looking at this region. Or probably now we can move because we have shorter routes, and even for other even our other requirements, Northeast primarily procures its most major supplies. Say for instance, fish. Northeast, like say Assam, it's a fish is almost every 90% for 90% of the population. Fish is a part of the regular meal, no, and but then the shortfall is still around 20 to 1,000 metric tons. So this quantity of fish needs to be procured from outside. So we have to procure a long route, no, and it increases the cost. Also, the other logistics issues. So similarly, when this Kaladan project was initiated, it was initiated in 2008. Initial timeline 5 years. All major international project initially they always around estimate 5 years time from date of the signing agreement. Work on road construction awarded 2017. Target 3 years. Waterways component complete 158 from Sitwe to Palaktua in Myanmar. That Sitwe port is already ready. That has been constructed. But through Myanmar, we need that one riverine route, and then again, because it takes the Kaladan River, and then on the land part. Because of situation within Myanmar, because of the internal conflict in Myanmar, the things have not progressed much. So this Kaladan route is also, but strategically both routes are very important because we are already at a strategic zone, geostrategic zone. It's connected with just 26 kilometers. Any external threat to snap this link with the main, the other parts of the India, we will need other supply lines for survival of the people in North. And so in that scenario, the country tried to build up its multilateral and bilateral relation so that it's transit through other countries to keep the supply chains on. Now, if the link to Northeast is snapped because of some external threat, we don't have so much friendly neighbor on the northern border, China. No? So even though both the countries trying to normalize the relation, but then that threat is always there. So you have to perceive. So when you look at from the perspective of securing the region and for the security of the region, you need everything. Like for the life has to go on, you need have to have enough food supply. Then all other supplies. Because the region is landlocked, it has not been able to produce enough to meet its requirement. So it is dependent on procurement from the outside the region. And if the supply line gets cut at the chicken neck corridor, we need some alternative route to keep the supply lines on. And that's why these projects are strategically very important for the Northeast region. That's why this project was conceived, and the relationship was also built by India through its policies. But again, we have to understand the challenges in taking forward this relation is that the progress of the pace of this progress of the relation is dependent on the status geostrategic situation in the neighborhood. So if the situation is not conducive for taking forward the projects, then it may get delayed. So there is Northeast is just held hostage to the geopolitics of the region around this region. It is hostage. If the situation is favorable, yes, then we see it unlocking it fast. We think things progressing fast. We think we hope for new projects coming up, new investment coming up, new market through the neighboring country which can be reached so that the commercial viability of the products get increased. But otherwise, without the geopolitics is not favorable, then the projects get stalled and then it doesn't progress. So this is the Kaladan project. And new connectivity like inland water connectivity. I think you have already heard about this one the cruise. No, it started from Varanasi and it traveled through all these long routes to Dibrugarh. So what it established is demonstrated that there is a viable waterway link from main part of India, other parts of the rest of India to Northeast. But you need Bangladesh to join this. And Bangladesh agreed. So because of improvement in India-Bangladesh relation, bilateral relation, Bangladesh allowed their waterway to be used for the connectivity from rest of India to Northeast. And on waterway, why waterway is important? Waterway, the cost comes down to 1/3 of the cost, the expenditure on road. Right. When you bring supplies on road, it is 3 times costlier than on waterways. That's why the waterway is the most preferred mode for the commercial logistics. No? But then again, you need the situation to be normal in between both the countries, relations to be normal, but not just to be relations to be normal. The situation within the other country also has to be normal. Now, because of political turbulence in Bangladesh, so there with certain question mark comes what happens. Although both the countries have committed that these projects will go on. There will be no of the no back out from the commitment already made, international commitment. But then again, I mean, we will always remain apprehensive of, even if we get supplies, some other the elements who is maybe not keen that want to see the Northeast region to the progress, they might sabotage the entire effort. No, even though the two countries have bilateral relations. So the geopolitics within our neighbor, that is also directly related to our the Northeast region. Unless we get access to the markets abroad through the sea routes, which are always much cheaper than the other main land routes and all. Well, will not be able to develop much. We will remain dependent on supplies from the rest of the region for our meeting our basic the requirement, primary requirement. And so the policies I've said, these are the important policy. Act East policy, initially it was Look East policy. Then in 2000 onward, the policy has been made into an Act East to give it that it's not having the policies enough. We start working on it, yes. So it helped taking things forward and building up relations. The ASEAN countries also benefited. They also, and then we have neighborhood first policy with respect to Bhutan. Then we have, India has very good friendly relation with Bhutan. Lot investment is done by Bhutan on power projects and then roads, everything, connectivity. And then we have another regional subgroup called BIMSTEC, Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Economic Cooperations. Then this is another BBIM. The BBIM, Bharat, Bhutan, that 4 countries. See, when the in region overall, in a geographic region, it also have sub-regions of geopolitical cooperation, so that their market is get enlarged, and then commercial viability of the projects get increased. So that then they can depend on this the large market to for their productions to get remunerative prices for the producers. Then when you get remunerative prices for your products, then your economy goes up. More money comes to people's hand, savings increases, and then with savings, more investment in agriculture and other associated field, and then it creates livelihood, it generates employment, and then it starts. When it doesn't happen, we remain stagnant. Now, even if you say we may be pushing for, say, why don't you go for double cropping or multiple cropping? No. Yes. Okay. The farmer is convinced that if we go for multiple cropping, double cropping, we produce more. And when the production comes from the raw material, from the agriculture or other natural resource raw material, we may, let us say that we have also set up industrial unit for processing or value addition. No, but then this will fix me remunerative price only when there is a market, and the market has to have all the other favorable economic condition of easy connectivity, nearest, less transport cost. All these factors will again come to make it economically viable. When it happens, it's good. I mean, it's happening. So the countries form sub-regional groups. There is another sub-regional group called BCIM. That is China, Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar, the initiative of Bangladesh. That subgrouping India doesn't have first track engagement. First track engagement, no official engagement. It's just the track to diplomacy, I mean, there people talk about the region because China is involved here. So the BCM didn't progress much. Although the BCM, other countries they have the track one diplomacy, but India has track two diplomacy. So not mentioning BBN. Even BBN. So BBN one project BBN has initiated this motor vehicle agreement. That agreement is to allow free movement of seamless movement of vehicle in the in the sub-region. Bhutan, Bangladesh, India, Nepal. And Northeast, because of its geostrategic position, it is at the center of all these regional subgroups. So any multilateral cooperation within the sub-region, it's always when Northeast at the center, it should ideally benefit the Northeast region. So when the Act East policy led to increase in trade and people-to-people engagement, tourism alone, it has increased. But looking at the data, we get an idea that the picture that 99% of the trade between India and ASEAN has flown over the Northeast region. Only 1% of the trade, Northeast accounts for only 1% of the trade. So even though we are visualizing Northeast to be at the core or the center of the Act East policy, and also many projects have come. New highways have been built, no? Highways have been expanded, cross-border project has been initiated. But that gap is yet to be bridged between the Northeast region and the rest of India. So even under the foreign policy, the trade hasn't yet happened. So that new connectivity projects like Kaladan, like the waterway connectivity through Bangladesh, these are quite important. But again, at the same time, we have to keep in mind that these are always dependent on the geostrategic position of the countries within the independent the country and also India sub-region. Now, we just try to understand often this is cited, the degree of difficulty, like those who develop the project or execute the project, they say the Northeast is very difficult to work, long monsoon period. So during the monsoon you can construct, so you get less time. Then it is the hilly region, so you cannot move fast. So project takes time. This is the argument that we give. But then, and what is happening in Yunnan? Mountains and highlands occupy 94% of the province's total, and while basins and valleys make up the rest 6, and average altitude is 2,000 meters. That is altitude higher than Shillong and other places, many other places. And in Northeast, 73% is mountains and highlands, lakes, and basins and valley is more, 27%. So the argument we need to contest is that the argument doesn't actually hold the excuses, because so we have to make a breakthrough in the project execution. I mean, we cannot go with the same excuse that because of its the difficult terrain, because of the challenges, the projects are not moving fast. So it is not actually true in the international global context. So we have to understand why Yunnan has been able to push this project faster, and why not in Northeast. No, that we also need to understand, because these are always linked to our development of the region. Yes, that's just bit about the when I discussed about the overall geographic idea, and then I initially tried to call it this bundle of paradox, because we have opportunities, but that opportunity is not being harnessed, and we have not been able to. We are visualizing the dream of developing, unlocking this region, but that hasn't happened. So why it hasn't happened? And within the region, again, I said the geographic territories are getting harder, and there are there are some the fault lines in there, and 400 different speakers of language, each with their own distinct identity, language, culture, food habits, and all other identity markers that set them apart from the other community. 400 different groups. And the problem is that this identity is also linked to a territory. each community look at their identity with respect to a geographic territory. When they imagine that they belong to one territory and they claim that this territory belongs to them, they look at the others coming to the territory as an outsider. This is so that, and most of the times these territories overlap. I am claiming that this region belongs to me. These resources belongs to me. You are an outsider here. So that us and them narrative sits in. And it is always with respect to language, with respect to the cultural practices and all other identity markers. And when we are saying that we are a distinct identity, we're trying to assert it in the form of language, in the form of culture. Although we see that a lot of events happening where we get to see the demonstration of cultural presentation, no? Yes, different communities presenting at the same menu, single menu. So that initially that gives an idea. Oh, it's a place of harmony. But then again, within that differences remain. The fault lines remain. No? And I have given you just an example. I'm not trying to generalize all of that. It's just an example. Like there is a demand for creation of a separate Kamtapur state by the people belonging to Coast Rajbangshi. No? They said we had this independent princely state, and we want this state so that we can progress. That is the idea of one of the identity assertions. That idea that it leads to, like even Bodoland also in the Bodoland statehood movement also initiated. And the map overlaps. Now there is a map. The Bodos also they claim that this area, and they have their own historical account. They have their own narrative, own facts to present their case. No? I'm a journalist, so I have to listen to the argument and the counter argument, and I have to present it to the reader, that what is the complexity in resolving these problems. No? How challenging this problem is. Now you consider this Bodoland state, which is also being claimed by part of it. Some part of it is overlapping with each other by another community. They are asking for common. No? This happens in other states. Different regions that gets overlapped. So when communities are asserting identity, they are linking their identity with respect to their territory. And this overlapping territory creates the conflict. And sometimes the conflict takes the worst turn. And identity assertion could be in a different form. It could be through intellectual exercise, through research, presenting facts, historical facts, writings, could be through articulating a movement slogan, or then a mass movement, or someone who are frustrated by the long time taken in resolution of the problem, they take up arms to rebel. No, we want to liberate this place, we want our own homeland. So that ethnic homeland is saved among different communities. That homeland dream they carries. Even the diaspora carries this dream. Even the diaspora that carries dream. I can just share you within this the anti-Ka movement in Assam. You must I don't know if you must have noticed that the anthem as the anthem or the national anthem of Assam, it was sung in different parts of the world by the Assamese diaspora. No. Similarly, therefore, in issues, identity issues like Nagaland, Manipur, and other places, the diaspora from the Nagaland and Manipur, they carry it and they raise the cause. So even when one leaves the homeland, settles in a different land, the original homeland dream is always remains. They carry with them their homeland with them, and so it explains some of the. And when we are asserting our identity, when the politics starts on identity, then the politics of exclusion comes. Because I am including only those whom I consider to be my identity, belong to my community. When I only including my community, I am excluding all others. So it's reporting on this issue in the Northeast. The challenge is for the journalist is not to be a part of this identity net. So as a journalist covering the issues in Northeast, we have to set our identity back. Because otherwise we also get into the politics of exclusion. Now if I take one side of one community, my reporting will exclude the other community. So what I do, I always take the position that I'm only a storyteller. And I have to carry both narrative and counter narrative. There is one narrative in support of the cause, there is a counter narrative disputing it. So I have to present it both. So therefore the readers and other people, the studying those in the development, or they're trying to understand Northeast, they get to understand the complexities. Some people from the outside the region, they may be, they may be concerned that why these issues are not being solved. India is such a big country, in a small region, small community involving over some thousand people, why the problems are not getting solved? So the problems are not getting solved because the problems are not decoded correctly. And when you want to decode the problem, then you have to present the facts. And present the facts from all the perspectives. So the otherization us versus them, it takes place, and it makes the conflict protracted, goes on for a long time, so, and it's difficult to resolve. And these fault lines are deep. This because we are overlapping territory, fault lines are deep. So anytime these fault lines can expose, and conflict may happen. If conflict takes place, it disrupts the normal process of development. All other activities gets relegated to behind. The government functions get disrupted, and finally the pace of progress, it gets de-accelerated. So what we have to do, we have to strive for conflict resolution. And while being trying to the conflict resolution, we have to again understand the complexities, where the fault line lies, and mending the fault lines, the exposed fault lines, that is important for conflict resolution. And so this is one experiment in respect of power sharing. No, because of the problem, the demands raised, people dream about near their own homeland. Then the experiment came, and governance and power sharing model, because people say that no, these are our own place, we govern, we used to govern, this is our land, we have to control over our resources, and we don't want to be disturbed with others. So autonomy experiment was to initiate new governance and power sharing model, and 6th schedule of the constitution that is specific to the Northeast. No, primarily it was conceived. There is one part of the constitution that gives you territorial autonomy with respect to certain subjects. Except in say for Assam, in Bodoland Territorial Council, it's an autonomous council under 6th schedule of the constitution, but it doesn't enjoy the power of police and the home department with it. In respect of 40 other subjects, it has legislative power. It has our administrative power. No? It can legislate, bring new laws. That law has not been given an assent. That's a different thing. The autonomy experiment, but it has to some extent fulfilled the aspiration of the Bodo people, and then the Bodo organization who initially fought for the statehood movement, both in the form of mass movement and by the armed groups. They settled for the sixth schedule territorial experiment, but some people are still saying that no, even the sixth schedule autonomy experiment has not fulfilled our aspiration. We want statehood. That demand, although nobody is waging any movement, but some section, it could be a minority section, but the demand is still alive. It hasn't gone down. So the autonomy is given to tribes, scheduled tribes for running administration in notified, and this is applicable in Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, and Tripura. So we have 10 autonomous council under 6th schedule in Northeast. Three in Meghalaya, Garo, Jaintia, and Khasi Autonomous District Council, and then 3 in Mizoram, Mara, Chakma Autonomous Council 3, and we have 3 Autonomous Council in Assam, Karbi Autonomous Council, Dima Autonomous Council, and Bodoland Territorial Council, and 1 in Tripura, TTADC, Tripura Tribal Area Development Council. So 10, and now the government is in the process of creating a new autonomous territory in Eastern Nagaland. In Eastern Nagaland area, Eastern Nagaland People's Organization, I don't know if you have followed last 2 elections, assembly elections and the parliamentary election and local body elections, the ENPO called for a boycott, and 20 assembly constituency out of 60 assembly constituency, there was not a single vote was cast because of this movement support to the statehood demand of the Eastern Nagaland People's Organization. But then they are in the process of drafting a memorandum of settlement to create a new territorial autonomy within covering that 6 autonomous districts, 6 districts in the state. There are other popular identity movements. We have language movements. I mean, these identity movements bring the issues to the fore about their identity aspirations. No, Assam movement was there when in 1979, 6-year-long Assam agitation took place, expressing the apprehension that because of the migration from the erstwhile East Pakistan and Bangladesh, the local indigenous population is going to be marginalized. It is posing threat to the language and culture and heritage of the indigenous the communities. And then movement finally concluded with the signing of the Assam Accord in 1985 that led to the formation of a new political party, regional party policy in the form of Assam Gana Parishad. Then things changes. Then Bodoland statehood movement. Bodoland movement. I have seen you have used 2 different words to denote Bodoland and Bodoland. So it is also again part of their different identity aspiration among the Bodos. Like the groups, like armed groups like National Democratic Front of Bodoland and various factions in it, they insist, they started for the Roman script, and they go insert that if Boro is the correct word, and so their nomenclature has this Bodoland. Like you have to look at the Nagaland, the NSNIM, NSN in Nagaland Socialist National. It's the Isaac Muga faction. It is Nagalim. With respect to other NSN group Kaplang faction, they use the word Nagaland. They believe in the state Nagaland and the Naga identity. So we look at these other aspects also. So that also implies the fault line within the Bodo society also with respect to linguistic aspiration within the Bodo community. Then the hill state movement we had, because of the hill state movement, the hill states were, the Meghalaya was created. Then there was demand for separate autonomous state, Karbi and comprising Karbi Anglong and Dima Asau. No? And then Karbi Anglong hill statehood movement in Tripura. They're asking for the greater Tripura land in Tripura. And then the Nagas struggle for sovereignty. Nagas claim that we were never Indians. We are completely a sovereign nation, so we should be given. But again, within the Naga society also, there is different opinion. And some groups already signed agreement with India, and that led to creation of the Nagaland state as part of India. So, but then there are other groups who are still insisting that Nagaland is Naga is a sovereign identity, and then they need a just a sovereign place. And there are so when the identity movements are once it takes place, a mass movement enjoys the support and destabilizes the situation, leads to complete halt of the democratic other governance process. Then the government has to negotiate with the movement groups, and the negotiation leads to signing of the various accords. Mizo Accord, it was signed in 1987, led to creation of the Mizoram as a separate state. Assam Accord in 1985, Bodo Accord, not once, three times. No, three times it was signed with different groups. 1993, 2003, and then again 2023. Then Karbi Accord, Dimasa Accord, Shillong Accord with respect to Nagaland, that led to creation of Nagaland as a separate state from carving out of Naga districts of Assam, and then other part from the Nepal, Pyeongchang district and all. These parts were, I'll come to that when I explain again the boundary dispute. Framework agreement between NSD and IM, an agreed position. There are two different, and based on which the current Naga talks are on, although they are yet to reach a single accord. Because this, the government is negotiating with two different groups, with two different agreements, but the government said only one accord will be signed. That hasn't happened, so Naga talks have reached dead end, but they are trying to break the ice and then trying to negotiate and then arrive at a conclusion. And this gives us an idea about the complexities of this region. And so when we write on the issues to the rest of India, the need needs to be decoded well. Then only it will be easier for the other people. Because when we try to paint everything with single brush called Northeast, then it is not easy to understand. Then we get all the questions. Then why it is not solving the problem? No, for us. Framework agreement I have already said. 2015 is signed, but we have not been able to reach the agreement. Bodoland I have said still no finality the third time round. I mean the accord has been signed, but then there are the indications that new Bodo Accord does not spell a closure of the statehood movement. Anytime it may lead, and what it may lead, I mean, we can understand. So when I say it again, it might again be open up the. There is a demand for expansion of the scheduled tribe list, ST list, 6 communities, and so they are demanding ST list, Nagas and Kukis, Manipur. You have seen the whole issue has burned Manipur. It's taken Manipur to a situation where there is no sign of any resolution of the conflict. I've been to Manipur twice after the incident has taken place, and it's very pathetic to see how the ordinary, see, when the conflict takes place, people are displaced, houses are burned. It is the ordinary people whose human right is violated, And in course of the resolution of the conflict, there is use of force, and sometimes innocent people get become victim of the human rights violation. So in the Manipur, there is there's no sign of any reaching a compromise. It's clear, sharply divided onto. It's like a civil war. I mean, when I visited there, I had to cross check gates of not only security forces, even check gates by the civilian groups, which are patrolled with the arms. With people, guns have gone into the civilian hands. So it's like a civil war, just like any other place. So so the issues are so sensitive. So that's why the expansion of ST list. We need to understand that what could be the consequences of these expansion of the list, and when these demands are articulated and responses are made, how these are, and then so even for reporting also, as a journalist, we have to look at the sensitive character of the various issues. So apart from reservation in education, jobs, SC status political implications, not only land rights, seat reservation, autonomous council, assembly, parliament, local bodies. Now say Bodoland Territorial Council. Now other communities like the Adivasis, Coast Rajbangsis, they are demanding, those who are living within Bodoland, they are demanding the ST status. Now the seats are reserved not in the name of community. Indian Constitution has no provision of reservation of seats in the community. Now when you have a territorial council, you will have elections, council body will be elected, and then council body will be elected based on and the seats are reserved for the SC status, because the demand was, the system has come in lieu of statehood. Bodos demanded statehood, they wanted to govern their own territory, state. But then if the ST list is expanded, then Bodos are apprehensive that other communities will also be able to contest from the same seats. And if they are able to contest, there is no guarantee that Bodos will be elected to the territorial council. Then politically Bodos might be a loser. That is the apprehension. So when you talk about ST expansions, then we have to understand also in the context of political rights, land rights, and other aspects. What the rights it gives. So that's why even though ST bill has been passed in Rajya Sabha, it has finally not been made into a law. So the issue is still hanging, and it leads to sharp division among those who are already ST, enjoying the ST status, and those who want to become included in the list for their, and they are not in, they just not want to be included in the list only for their job reservation and some other benefits. They also want political right from this reservation. So that's why the fault line is always active in this. Yeah. So that's why the political power equilibrium, it gets disturbed. Expansion of ST makes new ST groups eligible to contest in reserve seats. The power equilibrium is disrupted. When the power equilibrium is disrupted, those who are already enjoying the benefits of that particular existing system, they get antagonized. And when they antagonize, then the new aspirations may form, and a new. This is the bill that was passed in Rajya Sabha, Constitution Schedule Types Order Amendment Bill 2019, table in Rajya Sabha, that seeks to expand the ST list, is hanging like the sword of Damocles about the government. Government is also in a very tight spot. I mean, if you suddenly decides to grant ST status, then it will antagonize the existing ST. So it's trying to solve it in another format, concentrating on locally, giving more, creating a different autonomous council that doesn't get into the working of the existing council. So, but it hasn't settled the problem yet. But the problem remains, and we have to understand that these are also the fault lines. So if you do not handle it carefully, the fault lines may expose further and will give rise to fresh conflict. And once the conflict starts, then the conflict resolution becomes very, very difficult. And it delays the entire development process in the region already underdeveloped because of its landlockness. The hills all around valley, Métis living in valley, the hills have Nagas and the Kuki population. Then because of the conflict, Kukis got displaced, Métis got displaced, those living in hill region, they got displaced. No? And the issue is only the granting of SC status to the Métis. One single demand, but then just see where it has brought the situation. No? There is endless conflict. A lot of people kill, children kill, and then people are not being able to return to their villages. When people get uprooted from their own village, then everything gets disrupted. The traditional cultural practices get disrupted. You don't have the kitchen where you keep alive your traditional cuisines. So you don't have money. You are not being able to have the textile traditions go on. You don't have enough money to buy, or you don't have access to a loom where you can weave. So when, in a way, you are asserting the identity, but you are not being able to protect the identity because of the disruption. The identity gets distorted, it gets disrupted. So these are two photographs. This is one relief camp in Koki. This is another. So they are having food, and it's primarily the women who normally take charge of the feeding the inmates. So it falls on them. They have to manage it. And in any conflict situation, women and children, they are the worst affected. No? They are the worst affected. Children they are deprived from their educational access. Although in this situation, some arrangements have been made. They have been admitted to a local school. The students have been allowed. They have been allowed to go to school. But then the money. I met one inmate who told me that the government gives them 800 rupees for purchase of vegetables and other things, but they have other needs. And that lady has one grandchild who was born in course of in fact, the mother had to flee the village with her baby in child, no? And she gave birth to the bird in an inmate relief camp. And they borrow her son borrowed 800 rupees, and they had some loan which to return, and then 200 rupees, 100 rupees the son kept, and the other 100 rupees he gave it to mother. And she said that 100 rupees I passed one sleepless night trying to figure out what I'll do. At that moment it appeared to me that I have got 1,000 rupee note, and I'm just trying to find out. I have to buy bill for the grandchild. I have to buy some vegetables for the food for the kitchen. She said I couldn't sleep the whole day, the whole night. Sorry, the whole night I couldn't sleep, and so I thought this is one story, and this is the story of all the inmates, different stories. So the conflict, when it occurs, when it is not handled properly, when it intensifies, it creates displacement. When it starts displacing, then the human rights violation becomes part of the conflict resolution process. Then Northeast, apart from its geographic features, also includes it's the biodiversity hotspot. Forest is an important part, and forest, the perception of forest is different from the community, from that of the government. No? Community perceives forest as something as their own, with whom they coexist, and they have developed their traditions and various food habits sourced to the forest. And so forest conservation is also important for the indigenous community for retaining or sustaining or carrying on with their traditions. But then so when we talk about Northeast, we often refer to this. It's a biodiversity hotspot. It is. So forest, of such climate change, forest is necessary. Forest diversion is needed for strategic projects. We need to build highways deep into the forest, connecting remote areas. No? And we need to construct other projects of infrastructure, railway line, building airports. And because when you connect an interior place with these projects, you have to cut trees, clear forests, and then construct. No? And then, so for the development of Northeast region, this forest diversion, it becomes part of the project, the execution. But we also have the requirement for mitigation of climate change impact. And in Northeast region is also being seen as a carbon sink. So the new concept of carbon credit and all, it has also come to the Northeast region. So there is a perspective dilemma for the policymakers, and perspective dilemma also for the community, as well as for the media person. Now, which perspective you we would like to take. We need to balance it. But how do you balance it? Is balancing the two perspectives is always easy? It's very difficult. Sand mining is needed for infrastructure, housing need. So you'll find in the all over the region, you'll find excavator being used to mine sand. Now, in the manual sand mining is almost gone. It is purely mechanized sand mining. No? And sand mining has climate impact because you destroy the ecology, river ecology. When the destroy the river ecology, then the fisher folk is affected. Their livelihood gets affected. The transportation on the waterway that gets affected. So there are two different perspectives. You need sand. So when you have seen Guwahati growing up vertically and horizontally. Now when Guwahati grows vertically up and also horizontally, what happens? This is the riverbed of Tulsi River. It has it is a hotspot of river dolphin population. And the person here is working on the riverbed. On a river which is supposed to have full of water, sustaining the dolphin. Dolphin is at the vertex of the aquatic population. No? The vertex of the aquatic population. So when dolphin goes, other species also get disrupted. So fish population gets decreasing. When fish, there is no fish for fishing, fisher folks' livelihood gets affected. So the women who lived around the fisher folk village from 2,500 villages around Tulsi, now they have become daily wage earner on the streets of Goa. Earlier, the families used to earn from sand mining, mineral sand mining. So it was sustainable. It didn't affect the dolphin population. And there was one point of time in the same spot, full of water, you can row a boat and river dolphin could be playing around the boat. You can see it. And that's why the iconic spot for ecotourism for dolphin population, river dolphin population. But why this has happened? Because of indiscriminate sand mining. Now they use suction pump. They simply suck out the entire sand and supplies it. And then when at night you will find trucks and trucks of long queue of trucks waiting to collect the sand and supply it to Guwahati and for construction of different projects, housing project, flyover project, road project. So then you have to decide, this is Guwahati. This is Borolu River. We have already destroyed it to reduce it to a drain. Suppose at one point when we were in our childhood, we saw this river as clean as, people used to take baths in this river. The maternal uncle and all they had. Now it has become a drain, practically a drain. No aquatic life there. So this is how the idea of development also have contradiction with the idea of preservation of conservation and nature. So when we talk about Northeast being a biodiversity hotspot, then are we also? What is happening beneath this articulation? Is it just a slogan? No, or is it really it has remained a biological hotspot? How long it will sustain? So these questions also needs to be looked into or answered. Yeah, this Tulsi River. This is this place where normally it used to be full of water, and this is the original the format of sand mining. This is manual sand mining, and this is a forest department's tower, watchtower. This tower is for keeping an eye, so that nobody does any mischief on the river or in the nearby forest area. And this area, this is where the sucked from the river is stored here and supplied. It is just in front of the forest tower. And this is an industry. Its effluents are coming, and this is one of the hotspot of Kulchi River. And its effluents are coming. But in the pollution control board, there is a report, inspection report. They say that for 500 meters in the catchment of the river, there is no industry. So the official system is also manipulated. No, when we talk about development, sometimes we get carried away by the one perspective. Okay, yeah, our region is developing fast. It's becoming like Singapore. We are having highways, traffic, but there is the other part to this story. The other story also needs to be looked into. Is the development sustainable in the long run? Will it help in climate change mitigation, or how is it going to impact us? This is, some of you have already seen, this is a railway line. And when this railway line was restored, you can see almost one hill, new hill has to be manually built. Because the entire landmass is gone. This is the same with Haflong railway line. No? So the entire landmass below had gone. But it was warning by the geologists that this is unstable region. We should have new alignment. They didn't hit. And then it becomes so costly. The restoration becomes so costly. So when we are constructing railway line, we are already spent money, but to keep it running, how much more money we are spending just to maintain it as the communication link, functional. No? Then the story this is about the eviction. These policy issues also come in the notice about the way how we decode the data. There was these 500 families were evicted. They were encroachers from Power Reserve. 1,200 families were evicted, encroachers from Amsang. And we justify it because they encroached forest land. And when you encroach forest land, that means you have cleared trees, and you are going to do more harm to the forest, and then it will impact our life. It will destroy the forest ecology, and it will gradually expand. And so it's one expansion. But then when for generating again 2,800 megawatt, you have decided to fill 3.24 lakh trees. So I said we have this perspective dilemma. No? Now how do you justify it when we are evicting people to protect trees, but we are cutting trees to create new projects? There are justification from different perspectives. So but then for the policymakers maybe, or even for the general people, or for the media persons, this perspective dilemma, it keeps us silly. It's perspective to take, no? So we have to decide. And similarly for Italian project, filling up 2.78 lakh trees. In the Dibang, Italian project for the Dibang. Another project, Dibang Valley project is coming. So one way the argument is that Northeast is a powerhouse, Arunachal is a powerhouse, full of hydropower. Hydropower is, they said it is green, and it will offset climate change mitigation. It's important for climate change mitigation. And so we don't want to burn more coal, but we want to generate more electricity. But we also need to have a counter view, that when you fell trees for generating power, then what consequences are going to have in the long run? No? That also needs to be explored. So Northeast, when we say it is a powerhouse, it's full of hydropower potential. But the moment you try to harness the hydropower, then you arrive at the other solutions. Felling of trees. And we say that why when you're cutting so many trees, no, there is a provision for compensatory afforestation. There is also a scheme. Then we also look at how far the compensatory for afforestation is effective or actually been executed. So when we talk about the development of hydropower, we also simultaneously have to look at the compensatory afforestation in the region, whether it has succeeded, whether it has produced the desired result, or whether it has been executed properly. No, these other IB aspect also needs to be explored. I already said this with some of you and for others. This is again brings us to the climate impact of eviction without rehabilitation. Like we have evicted them, but no, we are not rehabilitating them. There is a victim of, displaced multiple, has been displaced multiple times from Mazuli and finally settled in Amsang, but again re-evicted. No, more the disaster are being may happen because of the more dams coming up in the upper reaches, because of more siltation in the river, the change in the flow regime. It has brought new risk of intensifying the erosion risk. What are the anti-erosion measures? Whether anti-erosion measures have been effective. So when we are focusing on anti-erosion measures, are we also linking the other aspects of the displacement and rehabilitation? So when we notice, we talk about one issue, we cannot look at it in isolated way. These are all interconnected. And only when we try to draw a larger picture with all the connected issues, then only we get a complete picture. Otherwise, it remains unanswered. Most of the questions will remain unanswered or will give a distorted view of what is actually happening and keeping other things blank from the people's idea. Then this problem of new data access has come. Say, Northeast, I said it's a 98% international border, strategic region. So that, and then government has decided, which leads to this. Now how accessible is the information related to project in Northeast? There is a question asked by the MP, ruling party MP. They asked these two questions. And then the answer they got is, the matter involves issues of strategic and sensitive nature. Disclosure of further details will not be in the interest of the national security. It was replied by the Minister of State. So the data access is a strategic area. That is also a serious challenge for those who are in the research, who are in the media, because they may not be able to inform people adequately about the projects being undertaken, because some projects we don't have access, and the new laws have come. So people, when they talk about some projects, they want to discuss about new project coming up in their area. They may not have access to the data at all, and when you don't have access to the data, then you cannot give your opinion about unless you are adequately informed. We cannot give opinion about the project. No, it could be based on perception only, but not based by data. And this is a new rule they have made. All the projects, the highway projects within 100 kilometers from the border or the line of control related to defense and strategic importance, that there is no need for EIA, environmental impact assessment. And 100 kilometers from border, it covers almost a major part of the north, because it's just on the border, no, 98% border. So from border, 100 kilometers is just, and it covers the big region. So, and for all this entire region, you're building a new highway, you can call it a strategic highway. And you can block the information related to how it is going to impact, how many trees are going to be felled, or how. So the data access in the border areas in autism. That is again another challenge that we also look into. So that is maybe my presentation. Stop here. Or yes, if you have any queries, I would like to get into this conversation. I mean, any questions, any interventions you want to make? Yes. Anyone? You want to ask any questions or any comment on this? Even your perspective will also help me because I have developed the understanding, no, on my experience of reporting in the region. But I am open to knowing new perspectives. I mean, if you have any new perspectives to add, probably perhaps that will help me again have a relook at the issues. No, so I'll invite you to come up with your own perspective and your comments. Even yeah.
Uh,
Just
Thank you, sir, for giving the overview pictures
thank you.
of this in this session. I have just want to know about these issues, the complexities, so many issues are which is important to know for the those are illiterate person they should know about because directly or indirectly they are also get attached with some agencies or some group or party or some groups, whatever it may be, without knowing anything or without any conscious. So how to make aware them, how
Yes.
to change their perspective because it affects for the development of our state or our country for the overall development. So
Right.
how to make aware or let them know
Yeah.
this is my
I think yeah, in this respect, the media plays a crucial role. No, but the media, as I explained, media has to report it objectively and present the complexities, not shy away from it. I mean, we should not try to simplify the complexities. We need to try to decode the complexities. When we decode the complexities, we need to be explained with facts and also with background, so that the things are clear for the people. And communicating in all other formats. Now the mass media has expanded. So we can utilize the digital media. So we need lot many explainer in the form of from the media, which are backed by facts, authenticated facts, verified, and also clear perspective. And then perspective should not be limited to one or the other, and it should be an objective reporting, not influenced by the personal bias or prejudices of the reporter. So that because if we don't present the perspectives in its true form, then the people will be able to understand. When they are able to understand, they will appreciate where the problem lies. Because the human civilization is advanced by addressing the problems, not by creating it. Whenever we encounter problem, they try to resolve. No, but when we can only resolve the problem only when I understand the problem. No, so that and then therefore so that when we call Northeast, look at the region Northeast, we also have to immediately understand that this Northeast is not just a single entity, but it is rather a diverse, complex identity mixture of communities and the region, geography. All variations are there, and also its issues are in effect affected or influenced by the geopolitics in the neighborhood. So even if we wish some problems to be solved, Then again, we also find out that it's not easy sometimes because of geopolitics. We have built transborder road, initiated transborder highway, transborder railway line, and it gives us hope that yes, now we'll be able to reach out to the larger market so that we'll get better price. But then we also need to tell them, see, this transborder road, it is subject to the relation with the geopolitics, the geopolitical situation within the neighborhood. If we don't give that idea, we only paint a rosy picture about the project, then people are unable to understand if we have built a road when it able to use it. No. That's why I mean, yes, they will fly only when there are more passengers. No Indian airline is just flying because the airliner will, they will look at it from commercial viability point of view, not just from the fly only when there are more passengers to fly, just economic integration or the they will look at it from commercial viability point of view. So they will wait for that economic development to take place in that form so that they can come and or initiate the linkage. So they will wait for the economic when we explain this to people, we need to explain all other related contexts. So then only people will be able to appreciate. When we explain this, so when talking about governance sharing model, so when we are saying that this peace accord has been signed, then only people will be able to. I mean, it should not immediately give the impression that peace is going to be lost. Talking about governance, peace could be fragile. So when we are saying that there are other complexities in it. Because there are other groups who may be affected by this, that peace accord to be lost. So until and unless their problems are also addressed, why there are other complexities in it. That because there are other groups. So media when reports on not peace accord, so until and unless their problems not shy away from the complexities, rather it should try to decode the complexities for the media when reports on the viewers, listeners, or it should not shy away from the complexities. So they understand the problem. It should try to decode the complexities for the common the viewers, listeners, or any more questions or any comments on the problem? I think I have. You have anything? Yeah, we may close. Any more questions or any? Yeah, thank you so much. You have anything? We may close.